Representative Allemand,
Present.
Representative Angelos,
Here.
Representative Haroldson,
Here.
Representative Pendergraft,
Here.
Representative Sherwood, Representative Smith,
Here.
Chairman Bear.
Here.
Madam Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mike Carew, Senate District 17. I'm going to, if it's okay with you, if it pleases the chair, I'd like to ask Matt Obrick from the LSO to go over, walk you through the bill, and then I can answer any questions regarding what happened in the Senate, what didn't happen in the Senate, what the tenor of the discussion was there. If that helps your deliberations, I'm happy to do so. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chairman, Matt Obrick, LSO. This is the biennial legislative budget bill for FY 27 and 28. So most of the appropriations in here are effective July 1. And I'll walk you through them line by line, but a big overview to begin with, 30,000 foot view is what we call our above the line appropriations, which are all in section 1. And that is just for the general operations of the legislative branch. The total amount in this budget bill for those the next 2 fiscal years are $26,118,778. The below the line appropriation, which are sections 2 through I think 10 in this year's feed bill, are $571,100. So total legislative budget for the next biennium is $26,689,878. So, Madam Chairman, walking through the bill here, we'll start on top of page 2. And these are the line item appropriations, starting with LSO permanent and temporary staff, $11,499,818. Legislator session salary, $1,156,600. Legislator interim salary, $2,239,976. Session staff, $575,608. Employer paid benefits, $4,906,076. Madam Chairman, then starting on line 11 is in-state travel expenses for legislators. The session expenses are $1,543,200. Interim mileage and per diem is $1,252,390. Out-of-state travel expenses, $93,800, and per diem while legislators are out of state, $128,800. The legislature's dues to organizations in which we are a member, NCSL, $293,524, Energy Council, $76,800, CSG, $271,346, other organizations, $15,520. Turning to the top of page 3 is what we pay for registration and fees, $75,600. Our telecommunications expenses are $50,000. What we pay the Enterprise Technology Services Division of the Executive Branch for our internet connections and backup of our data is $10,000. Our general administrative support, and this covers just what all we need to do to be able to run the legislature, $1,524,720. Our publishing cost for our statute, session laws, and digest is $405,000. And Madam Chairman, as I mentioned earlier, total above the line appropriation for the next 2 years of the next biennium to run the legislature, $26,118,778. I guess I could stand for any questions and then do some below the line.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and Director. Thanks for being here and having this conversation. The in-state travel, out-of-state travel, is that just for legislators? Is that legislators and staff?
Madam Chairman, Representative Haroldson, that would be during the interim is for staff as well. During the session is just for legislators.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director, thank you for being here. Senator, appreciate your being here as well. I just have a question on the below the line items, the economic modeling. My question is, when will this be available to the legislature? And I want to tell the committee that we used this modeling to some extent, or more limited extent, for I think it was through A&I, wasn't it, Director?
Yep, through the Economic Analysis Division of A&I.
I requested an analysis of what a 2-cent increase in sales tax would be. We got some feedback from that report out of this software. So it was limited in that you couldn't do it by county. It'd be nice to know what the modeling would look like if the bordering counties to states that had lower sales tax, if their behavior would change, that type of thing. And I think this expenditure will give us this, but it's really going to be helpful, and correct me if I'm wrong, Director, for expediting our fiscal notes, so we can get our fiscal notes out a lot faster.
Yep. Madam Chairman, Representative Bear. So this is section 9 on page 9, starting on line 13. And what this is a subscription and maintenance fees for a regional economic analysis modeling software. And the total price for the biennium is $492,100. The main driver of this request is the economic analysis of new executive branch administrative rules. As you'll remember, I think it was Senate File 127 from last year, required LSO to start doing an economic analysis of all new executive branch administrative rules that meet a certain threshold. I think that will likely have more than $1 million economic impact throughout the state. This price allows for economic modeling in Wyoming at the county level. We presented to Management Council an option to go about, I think it was about half this price for just statewide economic modeling. But Representative Bear is correct. While our research division will get the most use out of this, we will also utilize this in our budget fiscal division for just those sort of revenue questions, property tax questions, other fiscal notes that may come along with proposed legislation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When we go, especially during the interim, and we're having committee meetings all around the state, traditionally public media has broadcast that. In the event the public media is defunded, what happens?
Yep, Madam Chairman, Representative Pendergraft, very good question. And turning back to page 2, line 4, the request for LSO staff included 1 and possibly 2 more IT staff members to be utilized in that eventuality that that Wyoming Public Television no longer broadcasts legislative meetings.
Madam Chairman.
Chairman Bear, we seem to be having issues with my mic. So can you all hear me out there? Okay.
Yeah, you might have to use another mic because it is not picking up.
We're on a short leash here.
All right.
Madam Chairman, I had a follow-up to my question. Thank you, Madam Chairman. Director, I didn't hear the answer to the question. When will this software be available?
Yep. Madam Chairman, Representative Bear, that doesn't become effective till July 1, that appropriation. Now, you could certainly make it effective immediately. There's other below the line sections that become effective immediately. But I think that the idea was that Matt Petrie, head of the research division, that legislation doesn't go into effect until July 1. The need to start doing the economic modeling of executive branch agency rules.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I don't personally see any need to move that up, but does your staff need any time to prepare? I think this would be material data that they would be providing to management audit committee. And I don't know what the meeting schedule is going to look like there. Just curious if there is a need to move that effective date up. But also, my question was, once the funds are available, they won't be available till July 1st unless we do change this. Does that mean it's going to be available immediately? And back to is there going to be a need for training on the software for Mr. Petrie to be able to use it?
Madam Chairman, Representative Bear, there will be a training curve, but I don't believe the implementation will be long, and I don't think it will take long to train. I know that if Matt Petrie believed he needed the money immediately, he would have asked for it. So I certainly don't think it would hurt anything to put it effective immediately, but that wasn't his request.
Madam Chair, can I interrupt and ask you to try Representative Pendergraft's because Representative Sherwood's doesn't seem to be working either. IT has been called.
Trade this.
Yeah, could we maybe? We can all hear now. Are there any other questions for the director? Seeing none, all right. Should we turn it over to Senator Guru?
Thanks, Madam Chair. I did want to add on, if I can, to Representative Pendergraft's question. While there is money there, we have spent, as this group is incumbently aware, we've spent money with the Casper office building and now with the Riverton office building, of course, this facility. So we have facilities at fixed locations around the state where we can have meetings, and we have our own staff and our own equipment is built in, and we'll have that. I know it's always been kind of a desire to have meetings around the state beyond that. And so it's been contemplated in this bill to have that. It is tougher on the staff to be able to do that. That was a great thing about having PBS take care of that for us. That may or may not, that's something we'll just have to work through. But in the short term, I think that the fixed sites will work well, and then they still have opportunities to go out on the road farther and have that built into this budget.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions? Representative Pendergraft.
Welcome, Senator. Thank you. It was said that there's some money put in here to hire 2 more FTEs in the event that the public media goes away. Was it discussed in the Senate, your mind on, should we have some sort of a note in here that if that bill fails and they are continually funded, that those 2 FTEs go away and we take it back out of this?
Madam Chair, Representative Pendergraft.
Senator.
Thank you. I believe, Madam Chair, that in answer to that question, it was contemplated we do it. I don't think we think it would be kind of a wait and see if what happens with that bill. I don't think we did not discuss specifically putting in language to take that out if there was another action taken, but I think Matt wants to opine further.
Director.
Yep. Madam Chairman, Representative Pendergraph, there was certainly discussion in Management Council about just that. And Management Council would need to approve the creation of any new FTE positions. So the money wouldn't be expended for new FTE positions without Management Council approval.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions?
And Madam Chairman, maybe if I could just piggyback a little bit on Senator Guru's comments. You know, we do have the 2 meeting rooms in the Thyra Thompson building in Casper. And we're working diligently on getting a meeting room set up at the Department of Family Services new building in the Life Resource Center in Lander. And that is meeting with a little bit of challenges, but we believe it should be ready for meetings maybe in the June, July timeframe. We've had to do some more channeling of electrical conduits in the floor for power to the dais. I would just say that it's really been great working with all of the executive branch agencies on that. You know, they've kind of gone above and beyond. It's not our facility, it's theirs, but they're trying to be accommodating to the legislature and our unique needs. And that includes Department of Family Services, Department of Health, and the State Construction Department. So, and Madam Chairman, I just say for House Appropriations Committee, I'm always looking for new opportunities around the state for these kind of facilities where we can have our setup. It'd be great to have one in the Northeast part of the state and in the Southwest as well. So hopefully in the years to come, we can get those set up in Gillette or Sheridan or Rock Springs, Green River as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Director. Senator, would you like to continue?
Yeah, and I apologize. I know the Riverton office building didn't have the necessary sign, and that's why we reached out and got the folks at the Life Resource Center, and that's why we worked through that. As far as any of the other below line in any of these sections 2 through 10, I'm more than happy to try to answer any questions. One of the things, just so you know, and that's why I came today, the Senate didn't really have any questions about anything. It did come up with, there were some questions about NCSL and CSG that were brought up on the floor. It was discussed. We talked about, it was discussed about, well, how many members use these services, and it's a lot of money, and you see the numbers. We had a pretty rigorous discussion about the fact that, while some may not go, and I used myself, I was carrying this bill, I used myself. I'd never been to an NCSL meeting, and the only CSG meeting I've ever been to is the one we hosted in Jackson. But yet I use it every day. I use both those organizations every day through staff. Staff uses both these organizations each and every day when we reach out to them for questions about how do other states do this, or what's the state doing about the tax problem that they're having. Our staff reaches out to NCSL and CSG almost on a daily basis and uses the resources of their nationwide network to get us those answers and to get them quickly. And so while you may not have been to a meeting or I may not have been to a meeting, we use them every day. And it's an invaluable resource for staff that I think is really worth the spend. And that was the discussion. And that's why the Senate made no change to that. The other discussion that was brought up was 2 members brought up amendments to join other organizations. One was an organization of states that work with insurance and insurance directors. And the other was about Federalist Society. I think it was called something, and then it was called something else. Senator Larson brought that. The Senate kind of shied away from both of those and did not take them up.
Thank you, Senator. Director, would you like to talk about that, about the NCLS and the CSG and how you use that?
You bet, Madam Chairman. So So, you know, the issue was really brought up in the April meeting of Management Council, that is the juice worth the squeeze on our dues to NCSL and CSG? Is it what the legislature wants to continue to do? So I asked LSO staff to compile their usage of NCSL and CSG. Heather Kammerman, our fiscal officer, provided information on how many legislators have attended those events. We had representatives from both CSG West and NCSL appear at the November Management Council meeting, including Montana Senator Barry Usher, who's the incoming president of NCSL. And yeah, NCSL particularly provides, you know, our biggest research, database on what other states do, and we utilize them a bunch. But it's also a two-way street, because they ask us for information all the time too, on what the Wyoming legislature has done on things. I would say the way they structure their fees, both NCSL and CSG, is based on the size of your state budget. So we pay the smallest dues of any state, just simply because we have the smallest state budget. So Madam Chairman, after those discussions, I think that Management Council felt comfortable in continuing on with the membership in NCSL and CSG. And I would just say all 50 states are participating members in these two organizations.
Thank you, Director. And thank you, Senator, for filling us in on what the discussion was on the floor in the Senate. Are there any questions for Chairman Bear?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Senator, I'm just curious how long it would take you from the northwest corner to get to the Lander office. I know that our speaker lives in the northeast corner. It takes him about 3.5 hours to get to the Casper office. So what does it take for you?
Senator.
Madam Chair, thank you. Through you, Chairman Bear, 2.5 hours, thereabouts to ride. Yeah, from Jackson. And a beautiful drive it is.
Yes. Sure.
As long as it's summer.
Yes, Madam Chair. Well, it's always beautiful. It's just sometimes, yeah, beauty's in the
Make
eye
it a
of
little
the
more
beholder
humid,
at certain
but-
points, yes.
All right. Are there any other questions for Director or the Senator? Seeing none. All right. Chairman Bear.
Madam Chairman. Director, is this considered one appropriation?
Director.
Madam Chairman, Representative Bear, great question. It is not. It's multiple appropriations. The governor has recently, I don't think the last biennium, but the biennium before that, utilized a line item veto within the legislative feed bill.
Thank you, Director. All right. With that, is there anyone here who would like to comment? Any electeds in here who would like to comment on this bill? None, seeing none. Any other individuals would like to comment on the bill? All right. Jackie, do we have anybody online?
No, Madam Chairman.
All right. With that, we're going to close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure? We have a move to pass by Representative Harrelson, second by Representative Sherwood. Committee, let's go ahead and work the bill. We're going to go page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, and page 10. Any questions, any comments, any discussion? All right. Jackie, go ahead and take roll.
Roll call vote, Senate File 2 do pass. Representative Alaman?
Aye.
Chairman Bear? Representative Haroldson,
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft,
Aye.
Representative Sherwood, Representative Smith,
Aye.
Madam Chair Angelos. Madam Chair, 7 aye. And who will be presenting on the floor?
Who's a member of management council? All right. Are you guys fighting over it, or are you doing this in a rock, paper, scissors over this? I'm going to appoint Representative Haroldson to carry that on the floor.
I thought I lost.
I'd be happy to back him up.
All right. We will have a backup with Chairman Bear. Thank you for coming. All right, committee. Next, we have some re-referrals that we tabled from Friday night, very late. That was a shot at the chairman. Let's see, let's go ahead and work. We are going to do House Bill. Where is my House Bill 67? I have misplaced my House Bill 67. But Representative, would you like to come up? Representative Connolly, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chairman. I did realize you were here late the other night and had some questions on this bill, so I'm very happy that I'm here this morning to answer your questions. I'll just say that what this bill does is it's an existing statute, and it is going to allow for some of our other honored military service folks to be able to participate in the Veterans Exemption Property Tax Bill. Wyoming has a proud tradition of honoring its military service, and today we have an opportunity to strengthen that tradition by correcting what I see as an oversight in our Veterans Property Tax Exemption Program. These other retired veterans that fall through the gap in this with the Wyoming National Air and Army Guard members serve our state and our nation with same commitment and risk as other military components. They deploy overseas, respond to domestic crisis, and are often the first ones on the ground when Wyoming faces wildfires, floods, winter storms, and other emergencies. Yet under current law, many of these service members are excluded from a benefit intended to honor that very service. So with that said, I am looking to have this bill approved and passed out of your committee. I respectfully ask your support. And I'd like to say, you know, these ladies and men that do this service, when they sign up, they basically have a check in front of them. And that amount in that check has my life in it. Life given potentially. And it's made out to the United States of America and the state of Wyoming. And they, whether they're Army or Air Guard or regular active service folks, they still deserve to be considered for that reason. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Representative. We are having a lot of technical difficulties this morning. Half of it is my fault. Are there any questions for the representative? Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for being here. I'm just curious, what do you say to combat veterans? This benefit was originally set out to honor those who did go into a combat zone for a period of time. And I would suggest that they possibly faced a risk, maybe not greater, but certainly different than those who serve in just hazardous situations. What do you say to them if they say, well, this kind of devalues my service?
I think I'll let
Representative,
Filer, if that's okay, Chairman.
yes. Representative Filer, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you and Representative Pendergraph, I think what we say to them, those combat veterans, is first off, thank you. And I think we do not ever want to degrade any service whatsoever there ever is for anybody serving. One thing we do got to remember is when we do ask those combat veterans, who is the supporting staff? Who are the men and women here supporting their missions overseas or in a combat zone, making sure planes get loaded and supplies get to them, making sure that they have more troops being able to be shipped to them and process them. There is so many more supporting roles. So every person in combat, there's probably about 5 or 6 supporting them. So that's what we say to them. One, we say thank you. What this does is it groups them all together as a whole because it's all one big team. That's one thing I learned in the military. We were all one. We wore that uniform. One side of it said United States Air Force, the other side stayed your name. Because we're all one, we're the same team. So that, what I say to those combat vets is we thank them. And we want to thank their whole supporting staff also. Thanks, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any questions? Chairman Bear?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'll direct my question to Representative Filer. You know, where does that stop? I mean, do we thank the taxpayers? Do we thank the people who built the missiles and the bullets and the rifles and everything else? Because they also contributed to our ability to fight. I'll just ask that, and then I have a follow-up for Representative Connolly.
Representative?
Thanks, Madam Chair, through you. Representative Bear, where does it stop? I've had this conversation many times, Representative Bear, many times, with a lot of people. How many people and how many, even private side, that help support our military? There's thousands and hundreds of thousands of people. But there's one difference. Less than 1% of the population puts on that uniform. That's the difference, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Bear?
I'm going to direct my question to you, Ms. Connolly, but if Representative Filer has the answer, based on his last response, I'd like to know, what is the percentage that go into combat? I mean, it's probably, if it's 1% that goes, puts on the uniform, I thought it was 3% that put on the uniform nationwide, and it's like 10% in Wyoming. Wyoming is the most participation in the armed forces of any state, which, gosh, we should all be proud of that. Very well represented. Representative Connolly, my question to you, and I just did a little research. We have been spending, and I hate to use the word spending, we've been using about $8 million a year, per year, up to 26 for this combat veterans discount. Your fiscal note looks like an additional almost, it's $11.5 million, pretty significant increase. It's probably the difference of the question I just asked, between combat versus non-combat. Do you consider that significant, to move this from $7 to $8 million up to $11 million?
Madam Chair.
Representative?
Representative Bear. It is significant, but I think when compared to the cost of recruiting and training and replacements, emergency contracting due to disasters, targeting this amount of money can be a high return on the investment for Wyoming's readiness and community resilience. I also see it as an economic gain, because when these folks are able to use this exemption, that's money in their pockets that they turn around and spend in their communities. They buy license plates. There's that money goes back into the community. So yes, while I see it as a significant increase, I see it as honoring Wyoming's military folks that deserve it.
Thank you, Representative. I actually have a question for you on the bill. Page 2, line 9, the at least 3 years was struck and it said not less than 1 year was put in. Can you kind of talk about that? Because when I'm looking at this, I start not, I mean, we definitely respect our veterans, but the amount of influx that might come into the state to take advantage of this. The other thing is, do you think that that would put a crunch on our already taxed housing? Thank you.
Madam Chairman, yeah, there was some discussion when we were first drafting this bill on that very question. And we looked at, well, 1 year, the existing statute has 3 years in it, and that's what they're doing now. So through the process and through the committee work, we felt like leaving it at 3 years was the best thing to do. So there is it was amended to 3 years.
Thank you for that information. So committee, if you heard that, there's going to be an amendment to bring back the just statute of just 3 years. Chairman Bear. Oh, is it on the back? Okay. Is there any other questions? Seeing none. Oh, always has to get the last word. Chairman Bear.
Well, I just want to make sure the committee is aware of that amendment because there is an expenditure to the state to reimburse local governments of $5 million. That was an amendment made in the standing committee. And I don't know if you have any questions, but just be aware of that.
Thank you, Chairman Bear. Any other questions? Seeing none. Do we have any public comment on this bill? Please come up. Thank you, representatives. Please come up, introduce yourself, tell us where you're from. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is John Zorbis. I am a citizen of Wyoming and a resident of Buffalo, Wyoming. Ms. Conley is my representative. A while back, Ms. Conley reached out to me to talk to me about this bill and making some amendments to the way it's currently written in the state statute. So I've been involved with the bill on that portion. I am a 31-year veteran of the United States military. Started out in the Marine Corps in 1984 and completed my service here in Wyoming as an active duty guard member in Sheridan, Wyoming. Attained the rank of first sergeant. I've been in 3 different conflicts from 1984 to present. So having served in the Marine Corps, the active duty Army, Army Reserve, Army National Guard, and Army Active Guard, I've seen what our soldiers and sailors and airmen have sacrificed throughout their careers and what they are sacrificing today. Excuse my throat or my speech. I'm a recent throat cancer survivor. So that's service connected. So I know there's some question about the fiscal note. And to that, I would say that similar to Ms. Connolly, that I brought my tax statement, $400 is my deduction. I don't put that in savings. I go down to my local hardware store, spend it, fix up my house, fix up my car, and 5% of that 400 comes right back to the state. And as that business pays his employees and repurchases materials for his small business, 5% of that comes back to the state. So we're really not losing money. It's just coming back to the state in smaller pieces. And I know you guys are the smart people that figure out where all those small pieces of money is, and you get it back to the counties. That's the way I see that money. That's an $11 million investment in our small towns and small businesses across Wyoming. The other part on the fiscal note is it assumes all veterans own homes and that all veterans will have a home. With my experience, most of our National Guard soldiers, E5 and below, they're under 25 years old, just got out of high school, in college, they're renters. So by and large, there's a big chunk of our National Guard reserve members that aren't homeowners. And so we have to account for that. So that would drop and lower that fiscal note. The 3-year residency requirement, I would not be opposed to even a 4-year residency requirement. What that does is that would take those soldiers who come to Wyoming for education and join the Guard. We want that they would not be eligible for that. It would also take soldiers, sailors, airmen who are here in Wyoming temporarily because this is their duty station, and then based on normal military transitions, they PCS out of Wyoming. What my hope is that this bill really focuses on the citizens of Wyoming and those veterans that are here in the state. They're part of our communities and they're here for a while. The other thing that I would like to mention on the fiscal note for the committee is I have a report and I'm willing to leave it here for the committee to look at. And it's a report of veterans by war, by county across Wyoming. For example, in Albany County, we currently still have 29 World War II veterans, 124 Korean War veterans, and 456 Vietnam veterans. So that's roughly 600 veterans from World War II to the Gulf War. Gulf War and the first Gulf War and the post 9/11 Gulf War, 653. And that's goes across the state. Niobrara, there's roughly 75 World War II to Vietnam War veterans and 75 Gulf War, 1991 to present veterans. Now, the Social Security Administration says the average age of an American male when they die is 75. So if you calculate the youngest veteran that was drafted and sent to Vietnam in 1975, that veteran would be about 71 years old. So in approximately 5 to 7 years, we're going to lose half of the veterans in this state. This program, it may be $11 million now, but in 5 years, it's going to be less than half of that. If I may, as I think back across my career, having served in both combat and peacetime, stationed in 29 Palms, California as a young Marine, a friend of mine was coming back to the base on his motorcycle, and a drunk driver turned left, and he was killed. And I wondered, if he hadn't joined, would he have been on that highway? Fast forward to West Germany, 1988, where I was with the active duty army. I can remember the newspaper reports. We had just fielded, the Army had just fielded the new Black Hawk helicopters, the ones that are here in our state, the workhorse of the Army. We had two nicknames for them, Crash Hawks and Lawn Darts. Monthly, it seemed like we were losing pilots and air crewmen, and it was peacetime. Fast forward again, Fort Riley, Kansas, 1st Infantry Division. We got called to go to Iraq or Saudi Arabia to defend Kuwait. Cold November morning, we're loading up our tanks, APCs, personnel carriers, and one of them went sideways going down an icy hill in early morning. Rolled, the tank commander was killed. Peacetime service. Right here in our own state. Shortly after 9/11, our battalion, the one I was part of, was called to go to Iraq. We were excited. We got to go play it. We got to go be a part of the big game. We still had work to do and some training to finish before we could switch gears and get ready to go to Iraq. We were going to shoot our howitzers in Guernsey in January, something we had done before. So all across the northern part of the state, we loaded up our howitzers and gun trucks and headed off for Guernsey. One of those gun trucks hit a patch of ice under the West Interchange in Douglas. Rolled. One of the 3 soldiers in that truck was killed. If that accident had happened today, that soldier would not be eligible for this tax deduction. My son, my youngest son, 1st Lieutenant, 3rd Infantry Division, Fort Stewart, Georgia, recently returned from a 9-month mission to Poland. Peacetime service. In his brigade, a tank broke down. They sent in a tank recovery vehicle to go get it in the middle of the night. That M88 slid down the hill and into a swamp. 3 service members died. Peacetime. If any one of those service members would have been a resident, citizen of Wyoming, they would not be eligible for this property tax exemption. So in my mind, the question before the committee is not really how much it costs, but have they sacrificed enough? I've seen both sides. Training for war is dangerous and it is deadly. None of us get the choice on whether or not we're called, but we're all ready to go. Or do we wait until history, so many of our vets have passed into history that it becomes affordable? I think as far as this state, this great state, and all the resources of it, it's little that we could do to honor these veterans with this exemption. And with that, I will end my comments, Madam Chairman, and stand by for questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your service. Are there any questions? Chairman Bear.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for being here, Mr. Norbert. Really appreciate your testimony. My question is, are you aware, I'm pretty certain this is one of the very few exemptions where you can actually apply it to your vehicle if you cannot apply it to your home. So those people who are veterans who qualify for it currently can apply that to a different tax. Were you aware of that?
Yes, Madam Chair, Resident Bear, yes, I am aware of that. Yeah, and I continue to help the other veterans in our communities become aware of what they are eligible for. But like I said, as far as the 3 or 4 year residency requirement, I'm one that I'd like to see veterans who move to the state have a little skin in the game. pay the full property, pay those taxes for a few years, show us you want to be part of our community, and then we can honor them.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions? All right, seeing none. Any other public testimony? Come on up, introduce yourself. Welcome.
Hello, Madam Chair. Rex Harvey. I live in Buffalo. I am one of the vets that don't qualify. I served in the Coast Guard. During the Iranian crisis with President Carter, I did all-night security patrols for the Groton Naval Base, submarine base, for the General Dynamics manufacturing facility, armed, looking to protect. I'm not saying in any way, shape, or form that I'm compared to a person that was on the ground being shot at. But I was there ready to do it. I then served as a rescue boat engineer on motor lifeboat out of Oregon. Every day, I put my life on the line and had to stand at the entrance of the river to make sure that the fishermen got through safely, because if they would have called us at the station, there's no way we could have made it there in time. Again, I'm not saying that that's compared to someone that is being shot at, but I put my life on the line every day. I'm going to do a comparison. And again, not to diminish those that have been shot at. I have 5 brothers that served in the service. I have father, uncles, grandparents, nieces, and nephews that have all served. Out of my 5 brothers, 3 retired. 4 qualify for these benefits. None of them live in Wyoming, but 4 of them qualify for it. I asked my brother, who retired as a chief in the Navy. He worked on aircraft. He did over 12 deployments on aircraft carriers. Several times, he was in theater where he would qualify for these benefits. I asked him if there was ever an aircraft that left his ship that came back with less ammunition than they went with. The answer was no. I asked if his ship was ever fired upon. The answer was no. I asked him if his fleet had ever come under attack while he was in theater. His answer was no. He was there. He was willing to give his life, but he never engaged in any type of combat. But yet, because his ship was in theater, he qualifies for these benefits. Personally, I don't see that there's any difference between someone that is being shot at and someone that has enlisted and willing to give their life. It's the luck of the draw of whether or not you're called to go in theater or to participate in things. The next thing I'd like to say is I talked to many vets. I worked part-time at O'Reilly Auto Parts, where we gave veterans discounts. There are many vets that don't want the discount. They don't want to be recognized. They don't want any part of the system. It was surprising to me the number of vets that actually said that. There are many vets that will not take the time to go down and re-register every year. To think that every vet is going to receive this benefit is not going to happen. The other thing is, I don't see that there's anybody that's going to move to Wyoming to save $400 on their property tax. There are, I'm sorry. Look at my notes. I hear quite often that there are people that move to this state and leave within 2 years because the weather is just too much. And I know this because when I moved here, I couldn't find a job. I needed a part-time job to cover insurance because Obamacare failed me. And the number of people that looked at me and said, no, come back in 2 years. And we're talking about Buffalo, that every single business in Buffalo has a help wanted sign. And they wouldn't hire me because I hadn't been here 2 years. So there are so many out there that are not going to take advantage of the benefit. They are not going to take the time to go down and register or want to be recognized. With that, I yield.
Thank you, sir, for your testimony. And I too always say, if you can make it 2 winters in Wyoming, I will consider you a native. With that, are there any questions? Seeing none. Thank you, sir, for your testimony. Are there any others here in the room that would like to testify? Jackie, do we have any online?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Oh, sir, please come up. Jump up and wave around so I can see you back there. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Major General Greg Porter. I'm the Adjutant General for the state of Wyoming. To my left is our Director of Veterans Affairs, Mr. Tim Shepard. Happy President's Day, everyone. Thanks for continuing to work on a pretty cool day. Listen, I understand there's several bills out there on veterans tax exemption, and there's some very difficult decisions that this body will have to make in terms of how you slice and dice and decide who is eligible and who's not going forward. It's not something that I envy you at all. I suppose I would just take some time talking about our Wyoming Guardsmen and the veterans tax exemption for them. You remember in my testimony, I described my address to the legislature last Thursday, I described, 3 different instances, one with the 115th being overseas, the other one in Antarctica, and the final one being the rescue that we did in Buffalo. Of those 3, 2 of them would not qualify for a campaign medal. And if I can take the committee back, the way that a veteran's tax exemption is determined is by a campaign medal that's given. Now, whether the person, quote unquote, sees combat during that time or not may or may not occur. It's whether they participated in the campaign, Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Spartan Shield, all the campaigns that they go on in which they receive the medal. I personally get uncomfortable trying to decide if somebody had 1 bullet shot at them or 2,000 bullets shot at them, whether their service is at a different level or not. I try not to go there. I just know that they served. That's the same with this one. I would say, if you look at the young lady that was killed in DC, that was murdered doing the Operation Safe and Beautiful, would not qualify. If something had happened to any one of our guardsmen that are in a Title 32 status where they spend most of their time, they wouldn't qualify. So I would say that if you look at the service that our men and women do in the Wyoming Guard, when they're not in that federal status, that service would qualify for an exemption. They stay here in Wyoming. They serve the state of Wyoming. They are there when the state needs them, whether that's floods, fires, counter-drug, ICE support, National Guard Response Force, any of the things that they're required. And if you think about the level of service that they have to do, an Army Guardsman could conceivably over a 20-year career be deployed 2 to 3 times. That's usually a years-long deployment. And that's in a Title 10 status, and they may or may not earn a campaign medal there. But over 20 years, they could be deployed overseas. Then if you take all of the training and schools and everything that they do to become not only a good citizen of their city and their county, but also keep up on their professional military education, it is a tremendous burden to be a guardsman in today's world. So As I said, I know it's a re-referral and you're not going to get into the amendments, but the appropriation, I would just ask that you consider the Wyoming Guardsmen and their service worthy of the property tax exemption. As I've told this body before, strength and in strength is my number one priority. This would certainly be a nice incentive to provide our guardsmen and women to stay in Wyoming and continue to serve here. As you've heard testimony, there's a lot of folks that continue to serve, and there's a lot of sacrifice that is engendered by it. I think that's all I have at the moment. I'm certainly willing and able to answer any questions that you have, and appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Major Porter. Is there questions? Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and General Porter, thank you for being here and having this conversation. When one of these men and women, when they go and enlist, they enlist to be in the military on whatever branch that may be. And they, at that point, understand that if we as a nation were to go into an active combat situation, that pretty much at any moment, then they could be called into these conflicts. So like they are taking that burden upon themselves when they enlist to be in the military in the United States. Is that correct?
Madam Chair.
Major Porter.
Thank you, ma'am. Madam Chairman, through to Representative Harrelson. I believe that's the case, sir. I mean, everybody has their own, reasons and rationale for it, but I believe that to be the case.
Follow up.
Representative Haroldson.
Thank you. And really, you're absolutely right. They may have their own reasons and rationale, but the reality is at any moment they could be called up because they signed on that line saying, I want to be a part of the military in the United States of America. And so then the question that I have with that is the training they receive. I mean, I guess the struggle that I have, and I've always kind of struggled with this, and I have not served our state or our nation in this way. And so there are others on this committee who have. But I will say this, seeing my family members and friends that have served in the military, when they put on that uniform, they did so to defend our country. And I guess I've always struggled with the fact that because maybe the dice didn't roll the way it did for one over the other, doesn't mean that they didn't still walk in a place of potential danger in the training and in what they did, be it natural disasters, be it a helicopter on the side of a mountain in Wyoming or a hurricane in a Gulf, or there's always those opportunities as they're putting that uniform on, serving our country. So I understand, like you said, 1 bullet or 2,000 bullets or no bullets.
Mhm.
There's still a danger that comes whenever you place that uniform on and defend our country, even in a peacetime. Would you agree?
Major.
Madam Chairman, to Representative Haroldson, yes, sir. I always talk about service, and service fundamentally is to take some of yourself and give to someone else. And that's probably the bottom line for everybody that does serve, is the realization that they're subordinate ultimately to that service, however it ultimately expresses itself.
Representative Pendergraph.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Welcome, General Porter, Mr. Shepherd. Thank you for your service as well. I was about 8 years into my career when we were sent over to Desert Shield. And so for 8 years, I had been there. It's not my fault that nothing happened. I was ready to go. But when you stand out on that tarmac and you look at your family, I had a wife and 3 little kids, and you don't know when you're coming back or if, it changes you. I remember after I got out, I remember the Army used to be in the good old days that Green Berets got special treatment by being able to wear that beret. You had to do something special to earn that beret. The beret itself is, in my view, it looks kind of stupid, but you busted your butt to get it, and it meant something. Same thing with the combat infantry badge. In and of itself, it's a little 50-cent patch. But what went into it is something different. So this bill to me is not about the money. anybody that raised their hand and served and put themselves on the line is deserving. What this exemption meant to me was something like a combat infantry badge or, $400 a year is not much. It's something. It's a little bit of recognition. When you devalue the beret, and you say, well, we're going to increase esprit de corps, we're just going to give it to everybody. That's great. It does something for those other people that deserve some recognition, certainly. But it takes away a certain specialness at the other end. I'm not opposed to this bill. I'm not opposed to spending $11-20 million to do what we do to honor those. But I just think in the back of our minds, we need to understand for those that were shot at, for those that didn't know if they were ever going to see their wife and little kids again. One other comment, and thank you for indulging me in this, but this is very personal as well. I was a recovery specialist much of my early career. I went out on horrible accidents, saw a lot of ugly things. During combat, I also saw a lot of ugly things, and it's different. Different. I don't care whether you agree or not. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any other questions? Seeing none. Oh, nope. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Any other public comment in the room? Any online, Jackie?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and close public comment. Committee, what's your pleasure?
Move to pass.
Move to pass? All right. Is there any discussion on the bill? Do we want to work this at all? We're going to just work the appropriation because that is all we are allowed to do. Do I have any motions? All right, seeing none. Jackie, take the roll.
Roll call vote, House Bill 67 do pass. Representative Allemand?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Conflict.
Representative Harrelson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood? Representative Smith?
Aye.
Madam Chair Angelos? Madam Chair, 6 aye, 1 conflict.
Thank you very much. All right, thank you for coming. Next bill on re-referral will be House Bill 90. And this bill is the State Engineer Consumptive Water Use Study. We have Representative Strzok here to walk us through the bill. Welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And so, as most of you have already heard, this bill requires the state engineer to complete a study on water uses that permanently remove water from the water cycle, including data centers, carbon capture technologies, and hydrogen production and other uses that prevent the return of water to the cycle. And this will be focused just on our new stuff that's coming in, nothing that we already have going in our industries. And I guess I just want to make that clear. And I've been working very closely with the engineers. There's just a lot of concern. We've got a very dry state, and it seems to be getting drier. And just there's a lot of concerns in the public and wanting to know, I mean, not only agriculturally, but even everyone that needs water to even live. So I think it's very important that we look at how and how much and where they're getting their water from. Just do a complete study before we bring in all these new industries. They're going to really put a lot of more burden on our water systems. And So I actually appreciate I vote on this and here for any other questions you might have.
Thank you, Representative Strzok. Are there any questions for the representative? Did I see a hand down here? No. All right. Thank you so much. Chairman Bear.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for being here, Representative. Do you know when this study would be anticipated being completed if approved?
Madam
Representative.
Chairman, Representative Bear, I really don't. They did ask, we do have an amendment. They asked for a little more time to really get it complete. We added, I think a year or 2 years onto it just to really dig into it. And we've been working on what really studies would be good and how in depth and on the water supply. But the engineer department did ask for a little more time than we had originally on this coming. Oh, I'm sorry.
June 30th.
What's that?
June 30th,
Yes.
2027.
So and they did ask for some extra time on that. Oh, here, I'm
Representative.
sorry. Yes, 2028, they did ask for that.
Oh, okay. I think I was looking at the page 4, line 6 says no later than November 1st, 2026. So they did ask for extra time. Is that what you're saying? Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Chairman Bear? Are there any other questions? Representative Haroldson.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So sorry, not trying to add mud to this water, but just to get a clarification. So on that page 4, line 6, it's requesting a report by November 1st, 2026, and you said there's an amendment. And then it says basically that appropriation ending period would be June 30th, 2027. So is it June 30th, 2028 and November 1st, 2027? Is that the shift just 1 year out, or is it November 1st, 2028 and reversion on June 30th, 2029? And so it's 2 years out. If I could get clarity on that.
Representative.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, you are correct. They did add 2 years to both. And that was the engineers asking for that. They just felt like to get everything put together that they would need a little more time for what we're asking for.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any other questions? All right. Are there anyone here who would like to speak on the bill? Seeing none. Did you have anything else, Representative? All right. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Anyone online?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Okay. Well, committee, what's your pleasure? Move the bill to pass? We have a second. All right. Jackie, if you could take the roll.
Roll call vote, House Bill 90 do pass. Representative Alaman?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Representative Haroldson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood? Representative Smith?
Aye.
Madam Chair Angelo?
Aye.
Madam Chair 7, aye.
Thank you, Jackie. Appreciate it. Thank you, Representative, for bringing that bill to us. Next bill that we have on re-referral is House Bill 115, Cardiac Events in Schools, Planning and Training. We have Representative Byron here. Thank you so much for coming. Please walk us through the bill.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. No one stuck around to talk about this one. House Bill 115, Cardiac Events in School Planning and Training is a bill I brought and has worked its way through education and is now obviously up here for re-referral. What it does, and I will tell you, I'm going to be bringing an amendment. I think it's worth the committee as you consider this to know that I'll bring an amendment. This was asked for by the charter schools. I did not include them in my original drafting, my mistake, and I will be bringing that when we get back down to the floor, if we get back down to the floor. But what it does is it asks school districts and charter schools to come up with a cardiac event response plan in their schools, and also it provides funding, which is why I'm up here, for implementation of that response plan, as well as AEDs in schools. it was a very emotional hour of testimony downstairs. And we have realized that a number of schools, which is great news, already have this in place, a number of districts, a number of schools. And this just expands the discussion and goes throughout the whole state, so we can provide some of those devices and that plan statewide. I actually, when I was home this weekend, I was pretty amazed to start paying much closer attention where these exist in public facilities. I was at a hockey rink. They existed obviously at airports. But probably the most surprising one that I did not know in my 3 years, now almost 4 down here, is we have one on the refrigerator in the break room, which is not a great location for it, but we can address that later. Anyway, with that, I'm happy to go in more detail. I think it's pretty straightforward, and I stand for questions.
Thank you, Representative. Appreciate it. Are there any questions for Representative Haroldson?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman and Representative Byron. So when I saw this come up, I thought first of all, I think it's a great concept. I think it's a great idea. And I also think it's sad that we're having this conversation about our students. First question, have we seen an uptick where we're finding more heart disease in young people?
Representative.
Madam Chairwoman, Representative Haroldson, during testimony and just from my historic training, unfortunately, we do see a lot of heart disease in young people. And one of the reasons why is because often they have not had complete heart scans. A lot of times pediatricians have listened to infants' hearts, toddler hearts, younger hearts, and you rarely go through a complete heart scan until you either something alarms you and you get told you need to do it, some weird murmur or some sort of irregular heartbeat, obviously a health condition during a physical, but a large percentage of kids, even in required physicals for sports in our schools, don't really get an in-depth imagery of their hearts. So there have been cases, and that was one of the testimonies. There have been numerous cases in Wyoming where these have saved. Specifically, the big one was up in Sheridan County, where it saved an elementary school student who was walking, just got dropped off by her mom, was walking into school a number of years ago, and the nurse happened to luckily be pulling up at the same time, saw it, told someone to go call 911. They had an AED available. I'm really proud of the Sheridan School District. They are very well versed in this and have AEDs available. And she is now in high school and playing Wyoming State girls softball and doing very well. She was here our first week. But yeah, it surprised me to realize and to learn, Representative Haroldson, that student athletes and younger kids surprisingly just don't have that kind of imagery of their heart that have been done yet. So yes, there is a large percentage, and stats show that if you can initiate a cardiac emergency response plan and have an AED there, the survival rate goes up significantly.
Follow up.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you for that answer. And absolutely, sadly enough, since COVID and with vaccines and all that, we are seeing more heart disease issues come up, right? So with that, looking at this fiscal note, we've got a $50,000 fiscal note for the biennium, $25,000 each year, and then a $4,500 personnel and benefit fiscal note. So a total of another $9,000, so $59,000. And you said this is to cover training and placement of equipment, AEDs. Looking at costs of AEDs, is this an accurate fiscal note? Because I sit there and go, maybe I feel like maybe it's a little low, or maybe the schools all have AEDs and we're not buying really any AEDs. But if you start buying AEDs in the realm of $3,500 to $5,000 a whack, well, that's 10 AEDs. Unless we're getting them at BOGO sales or something, I'm not sure. So could you kind of talk on that?
Representative.
Madam Chairwoman, thank you, Representative Haroldson. I will address the cost of an AED to a layperson is about what you said, but there are opportunities to get these at cost for this program. I've talked to a number of different folks that have insight into the manufacturers that are willing to discount them to their cost. I think that's a very good question, Representative Haroldson, and I contemplated that a lot in drafting. I will say that I was very proud. I reached out to as many school districts as I could, especially in my home area, and Lincoln County too has 12 AEDs. They rotate the oldest 2 out each year, and they bring 2 new ones in because the technology is also changing very quickly. And in testimony, Representative Haroldson, the school district in Douglas actually came on Zoom, and the athletic trainer mentioned that they are pretty much in compliance with, would be in compliance with a piece of legislation like this, which to your point, yes, it's very good to hear that from school districts that they already have them. It is the will of the committee to increase it if you so choose, or decrease it. But I felt comfortable with this number as we roll the program out, and with anticipation of potentially adjusting in the future. I think I'm making the assumption there are some rural schools and school districts that may not have the resources that some of the school districts I just mentioned do have.
Thank you, Representative. I would like to know how many school districts do not have a plan. I mean, do you have an idea? Did you do any research on that?
Madam Chairwoman, thank you so much for that question. I attempted to do research on that. There is a survey that went out last week. I hope we have some of that information soon. And the best thing we could hear is that it would bring me joy to hear that they all have a plan. And they have talked about AD and AD use. A lot of it too, Madam Chairwoman, is the discussion around the training. Having one on the wall doesn't necessarily mean it'll be used effectively. So getting the conversation started. Another thing that we have realized, and this has gone throughout the nation, a lot of AEDs, to Representative Haroldson's point, were very expensive. So they're locked in an admin building, or an admin office, principal's office. Well, these events can happen later in the day, maybe at night when there's an extracurricular activity going on in the gym. And when you go to find the AED and it's behind 2, fortified doors, it can be very hard. So Madam Chairwoman, I really wish I had that. When I get that, I think in the next few days, I will be happy to share it with the body. But it was hard to get responses and do that large of a survey. And it sounds like participation in some of these surveys is not always super high.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any other questions? Representative Pendergraft.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for being here, Representative Byron. Thank you for what you do. When I was in high school, they had a class that everybody was required to take called ABCs of First Aid. And I guess when I look at this thing, I think maybe it's a little bit of top down, telling the school districts what to do and how to think. I get that. But I look at this and say, but the training is important. You may never have an incident in the school, probably won't. But the training is good. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I hope that you agree.
Thank you, Representative.
Madam Chairwoman, thank you. Representative Pendergraft, I do agree, and I think you really hit on a very important point. This training and this discussion that was required when you were in school, or taught when you were in school, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but the more people that have knowledge to tell someone to go call 911, go get an AED, and start effective CPR saves lives. Statistically, it's true. So I think it goes beyond the walls of the school. It helps our communities, helps our states. I am a first responder. I have been on dozens of cardiac events, some successfully, some not successfully, not only when my pager went off, but also driving. And it's just having that knowledge base with that simple first aid, I think goes a long way. And that discussion in this bill that will happen at the schools, I think is very valuable.
Thank you, Representative. Appreciate that. Any other questions? All right. Or is there anyone who else would like to testify to this bill? Come on up. Welcome. If you could introduce yourself.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Members of the committee, my name is Richard Garrett. I'm here today representing the American Heart Association. Very grateful for your consideration of this bill. I'm grateful for the conversation as well. The American Heart Association has studied this issue nationwide, and to try to address a couple of questions, I think the incidence of detected heart issues has increased as our ability to detect those heart issues has improved over the last several years, if not decades. As for top-down as opposed to bottom-up, the American Heart Association works with schools nationwide and including here in Wyoming to help address the creation and implementation of plans at the very local level, and we will continue to do that. We are also able to help bring to the table manufacturers. I don't know that we can do BOGO, but we can help secure AEDs at a much lower cost, sometimes even a donated AED. Very grateful to the bringer of the bill. He's worked incredibly hard. He's a true champion of this. His background in EMS has really given him a first-person experience as to the benefits of rapid response and saving of lives. So that's what a positive vote will do today. It will save lives. So I appreciate your consideration, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your testimony. Appreciate it. Is there any questions? Chairman Bear.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you for being here. We've seen incredible expansion in heart issues with young people. Me personally, every time I see it, I start asking questions about vaccines. Do you see a correlation between the vaccine for COVID and the new wave of heart conditions for young people?
Sir.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, and through you to Chairman Bear. That's a great question, and let me do some research on that and get back to you if you don't mind.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? All right. Thank you.
Well,
sir.
again, thank you so much. I think this is, in my opinion, the best bill of the session. Now, I might say something different to you in the lobby on another bill or two, but thank you so much. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you, sir. Any other testimony?
No.
No, none on online. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and close public testimony. Committee, what's your pleasure? Move the bill to pass. We have a second. Committee, Jackie, if you could take roll, please.
Roll call vote, House Bill 115 do pass. Representative Alaman?
Aye.
Chairman Bear?
Aye.
Representative Harrelson?
Aye.
Representative Pendergraft?
Aye.
Representative Sherwood?
Aye.
Representative Smith?
Aye.
Madam Chair Angelos? Madam Chair, 7 aye.
Thank you so much. I think, does that clear our deck?
Yes, it does.
All right. Well, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.